people get involved in your campaign, they say, you know what, I love this woman, I love what she's doing, she's fighting for us.
And I expect all of you guys to get involved with conservative media and be heard today, tax day, April 15th, and again, November, when we take this country back from the people that are trying to control you and make this into a socialist state. We're not standing for it. Thank you very much.
These people are speaking it out here. They're letting you know what's going on. Urged his audience to get and stay involved. Quote, as members of the church, I hope we feel called for public service. When there's encroachment on our life, we need to respond. Our freedoms are under siege. We need to seek out honest people to hold public office. No problem with that.
That's fine.
None whatsoever.
That's all good.
Said he considers himself a Christian first, an American second, a conservative third, and finally a Republican.
See, I have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, put all that aside for now.
Okay.
Then said, and this is not a quote from the article. Well, I'm quoting the article, but this is a paraphrase in the article.
Sure.
Okay, it's not in quotes.
Okay.
Mormon candidates have an understanding that is unique because members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints know that we are all children of God, he said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say what you will, and I would be the first to defend anybody's religion. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's my question, and this is the question of a seminary graduate.
Oh, nice.
He ran because he was prompted by the Spirit in the 10th district.
Right.
He lost the 10th district.
Correct.
Anybody else making the connection here?
Right. Was God wrong, or did he get a wrong connection there, or did he not?
This is the same question I've asked other candidates. Well,
Right.
God opened the door for me to run right now. How do you know he didn't keep it closed until after you were out of the way?
Right.
Running for other positions before you decided to run for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make a huge deal about this, but apparently it's become an issue in the campaign. The question is, who's making religion the issue?
Right.
Is the announcement by Mr. Harmer that he was going to run for congressional candidacy in Walnut Creek, California, made in the Contra Costa Times, the Sacramento Bee, the Tri-Valley Herald,
Local papers.
the LA Times,
How about the Stockton Record? How about
Stockton Record.
How about
Is this article contained in any of those papers?
You mean a paper that is published around here that the readers of the 11th Congressional District actually read and can pick up the newsstand? No, this was not.
This was done in a paper published in Salt Lake City.
Correct.
It's a web page, actually. It's not even a newspaper per se.
I think it's an insert. But I don't
Well, it might be for all
Oh,
that,
yeah,
but
okay.
it's functionally the Deseret
Right.
News out of Salt Lake City, although
Correct.
they call it something, and I don't want to get into all that. What I want to say to you is, if you're going to run in a district you don't live in, are you really making the issue? Who's really making the issue of religion? Another candidate who says, "Hey, what's going on here?" Or someone who says, "I'm running because God told me to." It's 1:30 hour. It's Afternoons Live. Dive on into it. Welcome back aboard. It's Afternoons Live on KFIV, AM 1360 Modesto, KWSX 1280 AM Stockton. It's Friday episode of the Big Show. It's an interesting day today. So here's my question. The charges are flying back and forth, primarily between Elizabeth Emkin's campaign and the Harmer campaign, that they've made religion an issue. Well,
Right.
realistically speaking, if you announce your candidacy, not in the local newspapers, but in it's themormontimes.com, and you say things like, God told me to do this, who's really making religion the issue here? Now, again, I want to be clear about this. I am disgusted by anybody that I don't care. It's not. I have no doubt. I grew up in Utah, graduated high school in Utah. My best friends are LDS. It would not affect my vote one way or the other. And I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that an LDS candidate would choose to obey the church before the Constitution. In fact, I believe Mitt Romney said that very clearly last year. So the question I'm asking, and I'm throwing out there, and Paul's on the line and JDB is here, is who's making religion the issue? Emkin or Harmer? Paul, welcome aboard. Hello, Paul.
Dave, how you doing? It's great to be on the show. just dovetailing off of what you just said, and there's 3 points I want to make, but the first one is right off of what you said. In terms of and John and I talked about this, and we've done a lot of research on this race, as you guys have mentioned. You guys have done an excellent job covering a lot of issues on David Harmer today. If I was a candidate and I announced, and we're Catholic, if I announced in, say, the Vatican Times, that's where I make my announcement.
Right.
And one of my opponents simply wants to cite that, and then I run and say, oh my gosh, they're anti-Catholic. I mean, that's what it seems like is going on here.
Right, or if I was Muslim and I went and announced on Al Jazeera that I'm running in California's 11th congressional district. One, I don't know why I would announce on Al Jazeera or the Mormon Times or the Vatican Times or the Christian Science Monitor or anything that's really not read in any kind of volume or anything outside district. And I will point out to the demographics here that was from the Pew Research latest poll. There's only 2% of Americans and Californians that are Mormons. So it's not like there's some huge population, unless in California 11th congressional district, unless I'm completely unaware of that, of Mormons here. And so, and like Paul said, this Emkin mailer, I have it right here in my hands. It basically hammers him on running a bunch of times, and they cite the Mormon Times where he gave the interview. He gave the interview on them, and he basically announced there. But the first paper they cite was the Contra Costa Times, where it talks about him being a learner in the credit card industry. And then they turn around, and I get an email from Elaine Harmer, who basically says on this piece that Emkin takes a, quote, gratuitous swipe at our faith, question mark, even putting Mormon in boldface. It's a none too subtle appeal to religious prejudice. That's a quote. Then I get another email from David. First of all, why are you having your wife send this out? Is Elaine Harmer running or is David Harmer running? Is the whole family running? What the heck is going on with this campaign? So then I get an email from David Harmer, who's talking about, or no, I got this from Elaine Harmer just today, talking about yet another gratuitous reference to our faith. I haven't seen any references to their faith as far as in these mailers from Emkin. I haven't heard Emkin say anything about it. She's citing an article that David Harmer gave an interview by, and that's a legitimate thing. And then obviously David Harmer on May 18th, I get an email where he's saying that they're playing the religion card and it's an unnecessary mention of faith. Now, all those emails I got, very importantly, were all fundraising letters. So not only is David Harmer announcing the Mormon Times, not only is he saying God asked him to run, not only is he having his wife come out there and basically calling Elizabeth Emkin a religious bigot, but they're using a religion to raise money. I mean, that, in my opinion, is disgusting in a political campaign. I think David Harmer should resign and drop out.
All right, so you think it's disgusting, but let's face it, it happens. I mean, it does happen. It's gone without. Did I just turn? I turned your mic off. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
It happens.
I probably.
And Paul, you can jump in here. My issue with all of this is who's making the real issue of the religion? Is it Harmer for pointing out the fact that I'm announcing in a Mormon newspaper and I'm running? I'm saying things like Mormons have a unique understanding of things, or is it Emkin for pointing out those kind of things? And realistically speaking, what is the average person, because the average voter of CD11 is not Mormon and not a credit card industry lawyer, what do we look at this and say? How do we judge that?
Yeah. Look, I mean, the thing is you know what, why won't David Harmer come on the show and talk about it? Why won't he talk about it?
He was on the show back in January, and I handle the schedule.
No, I don't mean that, but I mean, like, I'd love to debate David Harmer. He could debate me on a conservative media cameras and do a video on it. And the thing of it is if you believe in your faith, and I believe in my faith, if someone, if I was quoted in the Vatican Times or the Christian Science Monitor, and someone quoted that, I wouldn't immediately say that person's a religious bigot. How Christian is it of David Harmer to call someone else immediately a religious bigot? What about turning the other cheek? What about running a campaign of integrity? What about being a man and sucking it up and realizing this is politics and not being such a baby and hiding behind his wife's skirt and have to do something like that? How Christian is it of David Harmer to go out there and basically accuse Elizabeth Emkin of being a religious bigot? And I want to know, why does he want to punk out Brad Garion, who's actually from this district, who's actually lived here for 4 generations, and in my opinion is the real conservative candidate? And then, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. But in fairness, and I have to point this out.
Go ahead.
You do work for Brad.
I do.
So
But I love Brad.
I know you do. And Paul, I appreciate the call. I got to get running.
Thanks, Paul.
It's always good to talk. You want to weigh in as well. 551-3043, 866-770-5556. I don't know that I have an answer yet, which is, how does the average CD11 voter, who by demographics is not LDS,
Right.
and I know people who are, and that's fine. That's not the issue here.
Yeah, that's great. We love the Mormons.
Why did this become
I
the
pretty
issue?
much love everybody. So.
And everybody love everybody. That's from Semi-Pro. Why did this become the issue? And how do we get beyond that and get to the real issue, which is what I said the other day? How do we get beyond that to the real issue, which is David Harmer actually a conservative, regardless of what religion he is?
I think David Harmer is completely self-interested. I think it doesn't matter. I think he'll stick his finger up in the wind. That's what I think.